Oh, but the gaslighting. Welcome to Change the Conversation with the Hopefulist. My name is Wendy McClure, and it's time we had a conversation about living in a patriarchy and how that affects our lives. Together, we can make a difference and change the conversation. It took me 50 years to recognize patriarchy and how it's influenced my life, which is why I now question everything. So the gaslighting that takes place, this is so rampant. It's so in your face and it's constant. And again, until you actually recognize it, it will go right past you. There are so many different ways that women are gaslit into looking as if they don't understand, as if they are to blame, as if they are crazy, as if they are too emotional. I mean, it is honestly endless. So I put together a bunch of examples that I have seen just recently. This is all from the last couple of weeks, some of them just from the last week or so. And one of them I wanted to start out with talking about the fact that we had a barbecue over the weekend. We had the neighbors over. We do this once a year. We all get together and we host. We make ribs and chicken, and everybody brings a side or dessert or something, and it's fun, and we all have a great time. So I always go crazy cleaning beforehand because I want to make sure it looks nice. So my husband and I were sitting on the porch taking a break when I said, I don't want to clean anymore. And he said, then don't. Which is kind of rubbed me the wrong way for some reason. So I didn't recognize it immediately, but after thinking about it for a little while, I started to figure out what it was that was bothering me. So I approached him and I said, listen, I'm not starting an argument with you. I'm just trying to point out some of the things that I discover from conversations that we have together and how it's all been ingrained in us to do things a certain way. When I said to you, I don't want to clean anymore, and you said, then don't, you acted like it was a choice that I was putting on myself, that I was the one that was forcing myself to clean the house and make sure that it looked nice when the neighbors came over. And the reason that I do that, as most every woman does, is because that is a reflection of her. She is going to be held accountable and responsible for how the house looks. That is a woman's job in the eyes of society. So even if the house were a mess, my husband wouldn't care because they wouldn't be judging him on it. They would be judging me on it. And although I'm sure that he wanted the house to be, presentable as well, and our house is never not presentable, I just, cleaned up the clutter, dusted the furniture, did the floors, vacuumed, ran a mop on the tile and all of that kind of stuff. And it's never in a shape that's so horrible that he would ever be embarrassed of our house or how it looks. But what I had said to him was, how would you feel? What is something that would upset you if it puts you in a bad light? And the first thing he came up with, this is kind of the same, but not really, is he said, if people got sick from what I'm cooking today. Okay, yeah, that would make you feel bad. But I would never say to him, oh, don't worry about if it comes up to temperature. You're just going crazy for no reason. That's not a big concern. Do you see what I'm saying? It's the same thing. Me trying to make the temperature of the meat not a big deal makes it seem like him making a big deal out of it is a little crazy. Like, well, you're just putting that on yourself. Nobody's forcing you to stand there at the grill and watch the temperature gauge. Nobody's forcing you to do that, just like nobody was forcing me to clean the house. So it's a form of gaslighting. And men often say things like this in the form of, well, I don't care how the house looks, or I don't care if the laundry piles up, because again, that's not a reflection of them. But if it gets too bad, then I'm almost certain that they're going to say something. If they have no dishes to take out of the cabinet because they're all in the sink, I have a feeling they're going to have an issue with that. If they have run out of clothes and there's still a pile of laundry that has not even been started, I'm sure they're going to have an issue with that. You know, just look at the way they take care of their golf clubs. I mean, that is like the ultimate in babying equipment. You better make sure that, don't touch them. Make sure they're nice and clean. Same thing with like guns. Like they're cleaning their guns and they're making all these kind of things. I don't know about guns, but I know that, a lot of people take a lot of pride in cleaning them and all of that kind of stuff. It is the same thing. Nobody is forcing you to do that. So what I propose is you recognize this for what it is. It is gaslighting. And when you get this sort of feeling like something's just wrong, it's just something doesn't sit right with you, examine that. Figure out why that is. Because there's usually a reason. That's our intuition telling us that there's a reason why this is not sitting right with you. So just explore that and figure out what it is that kind of bugged you a little bit. And that will help you find out more about things that just aren't right. Like I said, it was a very innocent comment that he made. But it meant so much more than that. It was just an insinuation that I was bringing this on myself. When I'm not bringing it on myself, society is bringing it on me. So I had an incident just last week where I was out with the ERA tour bus, the Equal Rights Amendment. We had a bus and we went around to a bunch of different states to try to get to these legislators that are not signing on to have this finally admitted to the Constitution. So we're trying to put some pressure on them. So we were at an office of a a congressman, a representative, and when we walked in, you could tell they didn't want us to be there. They weren't happy to see us. They were defensive from the get-go. And as we walked in, there was we were only allowed to have 6 people come inside. So 6 of us came in, and the girl in front of me had her phone out, and she was looking at her phone. And there was a man there that said, "Ma'am, you cannot film here." And she said, "Well, I'm not. I was just looking at my phone." He goes, "Well, you can't have your phone out." And I just looked at him and I said, "There's no reason to be aggressive." And he said, "I'm not being aggressive." And I let it go, but I think I let him know that, yeah, you were being aggressive. Because if it was 6 men that walked in and one of them was looking at their phone, I'm almost positive they wouldn't have said, "Excuse me, sir, you can't be on your phone in here." No, they wouldn't have done that to a man. But they feel completely entitled to do it to a woman. And when you call them out on it, they just deny it. "I wasn't being aggressive. What are you talking about?" "No, you were just raising your voice and practically yelling." So, no, that's not aggressive at all. What else? Well, let's talk about Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift and the NFL. There is a new meme that has just come out that has a bunch of football players in a grid style picture. And in the picture, it says, "Thank you for coming back into our lives." Taylor Swift, there's a picture of her in the middle of this grid of pictures that says, "Not you." Okay, tell me how much you loathe women without telling me how much you loathe women. Because here we go again. Taylor Swift is going to go to games that her boyfriend is playing in because that's what women and men do. They support each other. Travis Kelce was at a ton of concerts over the summer, and not once did anybody say, "Ugh, I'm so tired of seeing him at these concerts." He even took part in a concert one time, and people loved it. They loved it. But no, we cannot go into something that is perceived as men's territory and have any sort of existence there, because she's not doing anything to draw attention to herself. Are the cameras seeking her out? Absolutely. Is it a lot? Maybe some people would consider it a lot. It's never been more than a minute total over a 3-hour game. They show shots of the crowd all the time. All the time. How many times did you see Jack Nicholson on the side of the court at Lakers games? They would show him every time he was there, which was a lot. Nobody complained about that. No, it's only when it's a woman, and a very powerful, rich woman at that. People can't handle it. And they feel completely entitled to just make up memes saying, "Not you." They don't even think that there's anything wrong with that. Speaking of Taylor Swift, she came out just last night and endorsed Kamala Harris and Tim Walz for president and vice president of the United States. And it was a very long endorsement that explained a lot of things that troubled her and why she was making that decision, and impressed upon people that you should do your own research and then make sure to vote. And she signed it from a childless cat lady. And if you're following politics at all, you know that the Republican VP nominee, J.D. Vance, is famous for saying that women without children are just childless cat ladies who are miserable. And so that has become a huge talking point. So she has, I think, 3 cats and, just talks about them constantly. She loves her cats, just like I love my dog. And she doesn't have children. So according to J.D. Vance, that's what she is. She's a childless cat lady. So this morning, after Taylor posted that on her Instagram, Elon Musk, who's turned out to be a horrific person, just really not a good person at all, tweeted, "Okay, Taylor, I'll give you a child and guard your cat's lives with, guard your cat's lives." Something to that effect. I'll give you a child. I'll give you a child. Insinuating that he'll have sex with her so he can impregnate her. And again, we think that this is perfectly okay and normal to put on a social media account that has millions and millions of followers. We think that's just okay. That's not creepy at all. That doesn't make my skin crawl or make me want to go take a shower. Do you know how disturbing that statement is? And somebody could just throw it up there like it's nothing, like he's making some sort of joke. No, this is disturbing. It's inappropriate. And it should be taken down. Because women should not be treated this way. Women should not be spoken to this way. Women, and hear me out on this, women are people. Yes. Women have just as much value as men. And if you are about to say something or post something or do something to a woman that you wouldn't to a man maybe you should just stop in your tracks and reassess the situation and not do it. Because again, Elon wouldn't have made any similar sort of statement to a man. Now, obviously, he can't get a man pregnant, but he wouldn't say anything that creepy about being sexually intimate with him. It's weird and it is creepy. And it needs to stop. Another one. Oh, there's so many. A man in France has been accused of drugging his wife for years and allowing men to rape her. Okay? For years. Dozens of men over a decade. Dozens of men. So, first off, why do these headlines not start with man allowed wife to be raped over and over again? Man raped his wife over and over again. They make these headlines to make it seem not as horrific as it actually is. So the one thing I want to say about this story is, out of the dozens of men that came to have their way with this woman, not one of them showed up and said, "This is wrong, I've called the police." Not one. Dozens of men came and had sex with an unconscious woman because her husband said it was okay. Unconscious. The other thing that is very disturbing about this is he puts the blame back on her. He said, well, I wouldn't have done this, but she wouldn't go swinging with me. How do you even say something like that? How do you think that's any type of justification for anything? Honest to God. Somehow in this society, in this world, men have gotten the idea that they can treat women however they want when women displease them. And that is not the case. Not anymore. We are not going to stand for it. We have to let people know who even think about saying something like, well, it was her fault because she wouldn't go swinging with me. We have to call out the audacity of a statement like that, the ridiculousness of a statement like that. Let's turn the tables. How would it sound if a woman said that about a man? Well, I had to, lock him in the house and keep him a prisoner because he wouldn't do the dishes. He said he would do the dishes. He never did the dishes. So I just locked him in the house so that he could do the dishes. Yeah, same thing. Not nearly as bad, though. Not nearly as bad being locked in a house, your own house, compared to being sexually assaulted over and over and over again over a decade. Another headline. An Olympian from Uganda, a woman, dies after her boyfriend sets her on fire. Can you tell me what's wrong with that headline? An Olympic Ugandan woman was just at the Paris Olympics, died after her boyfriend sets her on fire. What is wrong with that headline? What it should say is man brutally murders Olympic runner by setting her aflame in real time. By setting her on fire while she was alive. Man brutally kills girlfriend by setting her on fire while she's alive. That's what it should say. But somehow we still have these headlines that just want to let men off the hook. They just want to lessen the liability that men have in these situations so that they don't seem like such extreme monsters. And I get a lot of crap all the time that I talk crap about men all the time. This is why. Is it every man? No, of course it's not every man. But it's the only men who get upset when they hear this are men that might have a little bit of this in them. Because if you are a man and you know that you would never do something like this, you would never say something like this, you are not concerned about the judgment because you know that's not you. But also what I do put on men is the fact that they don't call this out when it comes to other men. They don't call it out. They will sit there and let a man, bash a woman, say all kinds of horrible, nasty things about her. Some men will watch a man hit a woman, beat a woman, and say, I don't want to get involved. I don't want to get involved. A lot of women are told when they're young, if you're ever being sexually assaulted and you're in a public place, scream fire. Because more people will come running to help save property than they will to help a woman that's being totally violated in the worst possible way. How sad is that? How sad. So, men need to step up. Yeah, all men. All men need to step up. And when they're doing the locker room talk, they need to address it with their friends, with guys that they hear. They need to put these guys on notice that this type of language and treatment of women is no longer tolerated. It's been tolerated for centuries, and we are not going to take it anymore. We're just not. And this is where we need help from men. Now, I in my opinion, we couldn't even get men to help by voting for the people that would give us back our bodily autonomy. Some men, yes. Some men, no. They don't care if that women have been relegated to a second-class citizen. Doesn't affect them. It doesn't bother them. My husband has said this himself. He goes, I understand why you're upset. I understand the anger. He goes, but it just doesn't really affect me. And that's the other thing. I don't know if my husband would, in a situation where he's with his friends, a bunch of guys sitting around having beers, I don't know if he would say anything if people said disparaging remarks around a woman. I know he would protect me personally when it's needed. But yeah, I don't know if he would step up and say something. And it's not just him. I know there's a lot of guys that don't want to they don't want to be ostracized. They don't want to be that guy. They don't want to be the one to rock the boat. And I understand it, but at the same time, man up. You want to be a man, you want to be a protector, then be a protector. When a guy calls you and says, or this joke that I've heard for so many years, I have to have your help to bury my wife's body. The first question is, what'd she do? Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? I can't stop laughing. It's so, so funny. And then there's the probably the most common type of gaslighting is when they're just trying to make you feel like you're crazy. I had a situation with a friend of mine's husband where we were talking politics. And, it's been a while now since this happened, and I don't really even remember what he was trying to say, but he was trying to insinuate that I was wrong in what I was saying. And I wasn't quite clear on exactly his wording, so I was like, well, wait, what? What was that? What did you just say? And he went, never mind. Like, you just won't get it. You won't get it. Never mind. It's not worth going over it again. Never mind. And this turned into like a real brouhaha. Like this was like a big deal. It was me and my friend and my husband and her husband, and it got very contentious because I wouldn't let it go. I was like, no, tell me what you said. I just want to know what you said. That's all. Nope, don't worry about it. It's okay. It's okay. The whole time insinuating that I'm making a big deal out of something that he said when he refuses to repeat it. So I'm the crazy one. And I just wouldn't let it go. I finally did. After at some point, he's just like, you're making everybody uncomfortable. And I'm like, you're making everybody uncomfortable. Because I refuse to be gaslit right to my face. Now, it's not always easy to recognize, but the more you do it, the more you will recognize it, and the more you can call it out. Stop letting men treat us like this. It is a bunch of BS, and I've had it. I've had it up to here. So it's time to change this conversation. It's time to call this out. It's time to get loud. Get loud, ladies. It's time. We have to let people know that we will not tolerate patriarchy's twisting of words to make them look less liable. Oh, there was one more I wanted to talk about. There's a meme going around that says, unpopular opinion. I don't think that young girls should be walking around their house in sports bras and boy shorts. It's inappropriate. And a response to that was, why is your house unsafe for your daughter? Because it's not the daughter you have to worry about. It's the people who are going to take advantage of her. Women are not responsible for men's actions just by how they look. I'm sorry. Those days are over. We will no longer be responsible for bad behavior based on how we're dressed. I've said this a million times. If it were all about the fact that women don't have a lot of clothes on, there would be sexual assaults on the beach every single day. And for some reason, there isn't. So men are able to control themselves. Yes, men are able to control themselves, even when they see a woman in a bikini and a bottom that goes straight up the butt, and you can see the entire thing. They can still manage to control themselves. So we need to start calling out this behavior. If somebody says something like that, like, oh, girls shouldn't dress that way, men can control themselves. And if they can't, then maybe they need help. It's not on the woman. They need help. So we need to start calling this out. I mean, I've even gone as far before to email news networks, newspapers to let them know this is not acceptable. This headline is wrong. The way you reported this story is wrong. The way you left this story out is wrong. You don't have to do all that. But in your life, I want you to at least recognize when these people, mostly men, are trying to gaslight you. Don't let it work. Don't fall for it. You're not crazy. You're not too emotional. None of that is true. Men are just as emotional as women are. They just call it anger. They're allowed to be angry, but women aren't. So, for more information, please sign up for my email. Go to hopefulist.com and click on the subscribe button. I will not share your email address. I promise. I promise. So please do that. I want you to go on out there and be badass. Remember, we are stronger together, and I am always here cheering you on. Thank you for joining me in this conversation. Together, we are better. Please visit my website at hopefulist.com and remember to hit that subscribe or follow button.